Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about a piece of data that dropped recently and genuinely stopped a lot of people in their tracks, because it puts one member of BTS in the exact same conversation as two of the most recognized names in global sports and entertainment, Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. If you are new here, make sure you subscribe, because we cover stories like this regularly, moments where the numbers speak for themselves and prove something that fans have believed for years but rarely get to see confirmed by an outside, independent source. So let's start with where this data actually comes from, because that matters a lot here. This is not a fan-made graphic, not a random ranking pulled together by an account with no credibility. This comes from HypeAuditor, which is a well-established, AI-powered platform that specializes in analyzing Instagram accounts for authenticity and influence. Brands and advertising agencies actually use this platform to vet influencers before running campaigns with them, because HypeAuditor's entire business model is built around detecting fake followers and fraudulent engagement, and only measuring real, verified audience interaction. This is important context, because it means the numbers we are about to go through are not vanity metrics pulled from a basic follower count. They are filtered specifically to reflect genuine audience engagement. As of August 20th, HypeAuditor released its updated global Instagram influence ranking, and Jimin landed in 4th place worldwide. Let that sink in for a second. 4th place, out of every single public figure on Instagram, across every industry, every country, every category. And here is the detail that really puts this into perspective. Jimin was the only Korean influencer to make it into the entire top 5 globally. So who was actually ahead of him and around him on this list? The number 1 spot went to Cristiano Ronaldo, the Portuguese footballer who is widely regarded as one of the most famous athletes on the planet. In 2nd place was Lionel Messi, Ronaldo's longtime rival and fellow football icon, someone who needs no introduction to sports fans anywhere in the world. 3rd place belonged to Selena Gomez, the American actress and singer who has built one of the largest and most engaged followings in all of entertainment. And rounding out the top 5, in 5th place, was Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India. So the full picture looks like this: Ronaldo, Messi, Selena Gomez, Jimin, and then Modi. Two of the biggest names in football history, a major Hollywood and music crossover star, and the Prime Minister of the world's most populous democracy. And sitting right in the middle of all of that, at number 4, is Jimin, a member of a K-pop group. I want to pause here and really emphasize why this matters. This is not a regional list. This is not a K-pop specific chart or an Asian entertainment ranking. This is the entire world, every single public figure with an Instagram presence, measured against each other using the same authenticity and engagement standards. And out of that entire pool, Jimin landed in the top 5, ahead of the vast majority of actors, musicians, athletes, and public figures on the planet. Now let's get into the actual numbers behind this ranking, because they are genuinely impressive on their own. Jimin's Instagram following has surpassed 59.9 million people. To be specific about what that follower number actually represents, HypeAuditor's data shows his audience reaching just under 60 million verified followers, a number that puts him in rare company for any individual account, regardless of industry. But here is where it gets even more interesting, because follower count alone does not tell the whole story. Anyone can technically accumulate followers over time. What actually separates a genuinely influential account from an inflated one is engagement, meaning how many of those followers are actually interacting with the content being posted. And this is where Jimin's numbers become especially notable. His average likes per post were recorded at approximately 7.4 million. And his overall engagement rate came in at 13.98%. If you are not familiar with how engagement rate works in the influencer marketing world, let me put that number into context. An engagement rate in the double digits, especially for an account with tens of millions of followers, is considered exceptional. Most large accounts, once they cross into the tens of millions of followers, actually see their engagement rate decline, because it becomes statistically harder for a very large audience to remain proportionally active. A rate below 1% is common for many massive accounts. A rate between 1 and 3% is often considered solid. Getting into the double digits, at Jimin's follower scale, is genuinely rare, and it signals that the vast majority of his following is not just present, but consistently active, engaged, and choosing to interact with his content. Now let's break down the country-specific rankings, because this is where the international spread of his influence really becomes clear. In South Korea, Jimin ranked first. In the United Kingdom, he also ranked first. In Mexico, he came in second place. And in the United States, Brazil, India, and several other major markets, he ranked fourth. Think about what that spread actually represents. This is not a case of one country's fanbase inflating a single regional number. This is consistent, top-tier ranking across multiple continents, multiple cultures, multiple entirely different audience bases. North America, Latin America, Europe, Asia. That kind of geographic consistency is genuinely difficult to achieve, because it requires an audience that is not just large, but distributed and engaged across very different cultural and linguistic contexts. There is also a specific breakdown by category that is worth mentioning. Within the music category specifically, separate from the general influence ranking, Jimin ranked first in both South Korea and the United Kingdom, and came in second place globally. He also secured second place specifically within the music category in major markets including the United States, India, Brazil, and Mexico. So even when you narrow the comparison down specifically to musicians and music-related content creators, rather than comparing him against athletes and political figures, he still lands at or near the very top of that list across some of the largest media markets in the world. I think it is worth taking a moment to explain what Hypauditor's own reporting says about how it evaluates these rankings, because it adds credibility to why this data matters. According to the platform, Hypauditor is designed specifically to detect fraudulent activity and fake followers, evaluating account credibility and genuine influence, providing data that brands and advertising agencies rely on when selecting who to work with. This is not a casual social media popularity contest. This is the same type of data that companies use when deciding who to pay significant amounts of money to promote products, precisely because it filters out the noise of purchased followers and bot engagement that can inflate less credible metrics elsewhere. So when a platform built specifically around authenticity verification places Jimin at number 4 globally, ahead of the overwhelming majority of public figures on the entire platform, that carries real weight. It is not a subjective opinion. It is a measurement, using consistent criteria, applied equally to every account being compared. Let's talk a bit more about the significance of being the only Korean name in the global top 5, because I think this deserves its own moment of attention. Korea has an enormous entertainment industry, one that has grown into a genuine global cultural force over the last decade, with multiple K-pop groups, actors, and public figures who have built massive international followings. Yet out of all of them, across every group, every solo artist, every actor, Jimin was the singular name that broke into that top 5 worldwide. That is not just a reflection of BTS's overall popularity as a group. It specifically highlights Jimin's individual account performance, since this ranking is measuring his personal Instagram profile, not the group's shared presence. It is also worth noting where this fits into his broader individual career trajectory. Jimin has built a substantial solo career alongside his work with BTS, including his second solo album, Muse, which produced the single Who. That track debuted at number 14 on the Billboard Hot 100, marking his 6th solo entry on that chart, and it also claimed the top spot on Billboard's digital song sales chart, his 6th number 1 on that particular chart, a record for the most number 1 entries among K-pop soloists. Among all K-pop acts, only BTS as a full group has more entries on that chart than Jimin has achieved individually. That context matters here because it shows this Instagram ranking is not an isolated data point. It fits into a broader, well-documented pattern of Jimin performing at an exceptionally high level across multiple different metrics, whether we are talking about streaming charts, sales charts, or now, social media influence rankings. I also want to address something that often comes up when discussions like this happen online, which is the assumption that a large K-pop related following must be somehow less genuine or less impactful than a following built around Western celebrities or athletes. This data specifically pushes back against that assumption, because Hypauditor's entire methodology is built around filtering out exactly the kind of inflated or inauthentic engagement that skeptics sometimes assume is behind large K-pop related numbers. If Jimin's account had a significant portion of fake or inactive followers, his engagement rate would reflect that. Instead, his engagement rate of nearly 14% is a strong indicator that his audience is composed overwhelmingly of real, actively engaged people. Let's also consider the platform diversification behind these numbers, because Jimin's online presence extends well beyond just his official Instagram account. He also has an enormous following on TikTok, where content related to him has generated well over 100 billion views under related hashtags, and his music continues to be among the most widely used sounds on the platform across all BTS members. This tells you that his influence is not confined to a single platform or a single type of content. It is a broader pattern of engagement that spans multiple major social platforms simultaneously. Now, why does a piece of data like this matter beyond just being an interesting statistic to share? I think there are a few real reasons this is significant. First, it provides an external, third-party benchmark for something that fans have believed anecdotally for a long time, that Jimin's individual popularity and influence operates at a truly global, top-tier level. It is one thing for fans to say someone is massively popular. It is another thing entirely for an independent, brand-trusted analytics platform to produce hard numbers that place him above the vast majority of public figures worldwide, all measured using the exact same standardized methodology applied to Ronaldo, Messi, Selena Gomez, and every other name on that list. Second, it reflects something meaningful about the broader trajectory of K-pop's global reach. A decade or so ago, the idea of a K-pop artist ranking above a huge portion of global celebrities and athletes on a metric like this would have seemed unlikely to most casual observers outside the genre. Seeing it happen now, with hard data behind it, reflects just how far the genre's biggest stars have pushed into truly mainstream, global relevance, not just within dedicated fan circles, but across the broader entertainment and cultural landscape. Third, from a purely practical standpoint, this kind of data matters in the business world too. Rankings like this influence brand partnerships, advertising decisions, and how companies evaluate the value of working with a given public figure. When a platform used specifically by advertisers and brands places someone in the top 5 globally, it has real implications for the opportunities and partnerships that follow, reinforcing an artist's commercial standing well beyond just entertainment headlines. I also think it is worth reflecting on how unusual it is for an account at this scale to maintain this level of engagement. Once an account crosses tens of millions of followers, keeping an active, genuinely interactive audience becomes increasingly difficult. A lot of massive accounts see their posts reach only a small fraction of their total followers in terms of actual interaction. The fact that Jimin's account maintains an engagement rate approaching 14% at a following size approaching 60 million suggests an unusually devoted and consistently active fan base, one that shows up to like, comment, and interact essentially every time he posts, rather than passively following without engaging. Let's also put the country-by-country breakdown into a bit more context, because I think it is genuinely one of the most interesting parts of this entire story. Ranking first in South Korea makes sense on the surface, given his home country connection. But ranking first in the United Kingdom as well tells a different story, one about genuine crossover appeal into a major Western market that has historically been more resistant to K-pop's mainstream breakthrough compared to the United States. Ranking second in Mexico and within the top 5 across the United States, Brazil, and India shows a level of geographic spread that very few individual public figures, regardless of industry, manage to achieve simultaneously. I think when you step back and look at the full picture here, what this data really shows is that Jimin's individual influence has reached a point where it can be measured directly against, and in some specific country-level cases, ranked above, some of the most recognized names in global sports, entertainment, and even politics. That is a genuinely remarkable data point, and it is backed by a platform whose entire purpose is verifying that these numbers reflect real, authentic engagement rather than inflated or manufactured popularity. Before I wrap up, I want to hear from you directly. When you first saw Jimin's name sitting right next to Messi and Ronaldo on a global ranking like this, what was your first reaction? Were you surprised by the specific numbers, or does this feel like exactly what you expected given how his following has grown over the years? Let me know in the comments below. I read through them regularly and I love hearing different perspectives on data like this. If you found this video interesting, please consider hitting that like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who would enjoy content like this. And if you are not subscribed yet, now is a great time to join, because we cover stories like this regularly, breaking down real data and real milestones behind the biggest names in music and entertainment. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I will see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves, and I will catch you next time.